Hello, good evening. This is Wilbert Mukori. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Tonight, I would like to talk about a report in the Bulawayo 24. The headlines are self-explanatory. The EU turns to Zanu PF as prospects of opposition government fades. This is a tragedy that has been coming, if we've got to be honest with ourselves. And it is happening. President Mnangagwa is quoted in the article saying that um, the European Union, European bloc, has launched the Team Europe, a new rubric under which the 27 countries comprising the bloc will coordinate and consolidate relationships with us, meaning Zimbabwe, this time through government. In the past, the European Union has avoided dealing with government, it has gone through the NGOs, but this time they are engaging Zanu PF. So the re engagement is taking place. What is interesting here is that the European Union had the biggest uh, observer team to the Zimbabwe 2018 elections. And that observer team's report is very clear. ZANU PF failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. They, they failed to meet international standards. And the mission made 23 recommendations that will help Zimbabwe, if they are implemented, to make sure that the next elections, i.e., the 2023 elections, will be free, fair, and credible. Sadly, not even one of those recommendations have been implemented. Not even one. So one has got to ask then, why is the European Union re-engaging with this ZANU PF regime, particularly on the eve of the 2023 elections, which evidence on the ground clearly shows that ZANU PF is going to rig those elections. To start with, they didn't implement any of the 23 recommendations in the European Union Observer Mission report. There is no verified voters roll. The number of cases of ZANU PF inspired violence are on the increase. So why is the European Union re-engaging with the regime? I think that is the question that we have got to be honest with ourselves and try to answer. The truth is, the European Union did give Zimbabwe a chance to implement the democratic reforms and end the ZANU PF dictatorship. The sanctions were imposed 20 years ago, and during that time, the opposition has had many golden opportunities to implement the democratic reforms, particularly during the GNU of 2008 to 2018. They failed to implement even one reform, not even one. Worse still, ever since the GNU debacle, MDC stroke Triple C have participated in these elections, knowing fully well that ZANU PF was rigging them, knowing fully well that by participating they were giving ZANU PF legitimacy. And the only reason why they were doing it is because Zanu PF was offering them a few seats, gravy train seats, and these they, they could not resist. So what the European Union here is doing, in my view, is simply acknowledging a political reality on the ground. That Zimbabwe, as much as we may aspire to be a democratic country, we are not going to be a democratic country, at least not with the opposition that we have right now. Because right now, the opposition has not only failed to implement the democratic reforms necessary for change, but worse still, they have um, they have been participating in these flawed elections only to give Zanu PF legitimacy and thus perpetuate the Zanu PF dictatorship. And we cannot blame um, the European Union for giving up. To be quite honest, this is a situation where, as it stands right now, I mean, those headlines are absolutely spot on. There is no chance of uh, a democratic opposition government emerging out of this present setup. That is the fact. That is a political fact. And I think we, the ordinary citizens, are to blame for it. It's absolutely shocking that even now, with the benefit of hindsight, many Zimbabweans out there have no clue why MDC failed to implement even one democratic reform. In fact, they're not even aware of it. They, as a people, we have got to say to ourselves, we elected MDC for the primary purpose of implementing the democratic changes, as the party name implies, to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. After 22 years, why have they failed to implement even one democratic change? The failure to ask that fundamental question is a serious weakness on our part as the electorate. MDC now, Nelson Chamisa, are quite content to keep on participating in these flawed elections for the sake of a share of the spoils of power. They will get a few seats and they'll make a big song and dance, of course, that they are very effective in parliament and they are holding Zanu PF to account, when in reality, everyone knows that Zanu PF, with his supermajority, is able to do as it pleases. And I think we as a people need to wake up to that reality and realize that it is easy to turn around and say, oh, why is the European Union doing this? They are selling out. Yeah, we are the ones who sold ourselves. The European Union cannot maintain these sanctions uh, indefinitely when there's no absolutely no chance of any meaningful change anyway on the ground. At the present moment, the sanctions were meant to pressure Zanu PF to implement democratic changes, democratic reforms, so that there are free, fair, and credible elections. And yet, the people who are supposed to be implementing them, because we have got to accept that it is not the outsiders. The outsiders can help. It is us, the people of Zimbabwe, who have got to implement the democratic changes and change and end this Zanu PF dictatorship. But if we are not willing to implement even one reform, the outsiders are shrugging their shoulders. What do you want us to do? And after 20 years of these sanctions, No wonder the European Union has lifted them, and they are prepared to even engage the regime, knowing fully well that Zanu PF is rigging the 2023 elections. Because they're basically saying to themselves, well, at the end of the day, Zanu PF is going to be the government in power with the blessing of the opposition too. So our saying we don't want the regime or we will not engage with the regime is totally meaningless. We've got to face the reality on the ground. If the people themselves do not want democratic change, outsiders, there's nothing we can do. And at the present moment, to be quite honest, the opposition is saying one thing. They keep on talking of, oh, we'll win the elections if we mobilize our people to register to vote. When you ask them, are you saying that because you believe the elections are free, fair, and credible? They will not answer it. Or they will answer it in two ways. One minute they will say, yes, the elections are going to be free, fair, and credible, and therefore then if we register to vote, we will win them. The next minute they'll be saying, oh, Zanu PF is rigging these elections. Then when you ask them, so why are you participating? They'll tell you, oh, it's because we've got winning in rigged elections strategies. And none of these strategies, of course, have ever worked. It's just hot air. This flagship strategy of theirs that we should have our supporters register to vote en masse, and then come the election, go and vote en masse, is already a failure. Because as of the 30th of May, according to SEC, only 250,000 new registered voters had registered. That's 30th of May 2022. That means since 2018 to 2022, 4 years, only 250,000 had registered to vote. This is 4% of MDC's own target of 6 million. But they still pretend that they can still register en masse and go and vote en masse. That is just nonsense. If they've only managed to register 4% in 4 years, what hope is there that they will register 46% in the next 6 months, just to get to their target figure of half of their target figure of 6 million, just to get to 3 million. It's completely out. Zanu PF controls the voter registration system. Even if you jump through all the hoops to get registered, you will not necessarily appear on the voters' roll. If you appear on the voters' roll, you will find your name is not on the voter polling station voters' roll that you expected. So there are many ways Zanu PF is rigging these elections. The only sensible thing to do is to implement the democratic reforms, which is what the European Union was also saying. It's interesting to note that actually the European Union's report on the 2018 elections and the recommendations, I've yet to hear Nelson Chamisa or any of his fellow leaders campaign or demand that those recommendations should be implemented. It's as if that report does not even exist. And I can rest assure you, Triple C, Nelson Chamisa and company will participate in the 2023 elections, even when there is no something as basic as a verified voter's roll. Why do I say that? It's because they've done the same thing in the past. They have participated in elections in the past without a verified voter's roll. So one would want to ask, why would that change now? Of course, they will participate again. And besides, like I said, they participate not because they know the electoral process is free, fair, and credible, or that they will have any chance of winning the elections. They are participating for the sake of the few gravy train seats that Zanu PF is giving away as bait. And this is why the European Union is realizing that they will never have an opposition, a democratically elected opposition uh, government in Zimbabwe. And so they may just as well deal with the uh, corrupt and tyrannical ZANU PF dictatorship that is on the ground. We have got ourselves to blame for the European Union giving up on Zimbabwe becoming a healthy and functioning democracy. Food for thought. Good night.